Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. May peace be upon you. This is Edward Ahmed Mitchell, the Deputy Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations, welcoming you to today's episode of CAIR on Air, the Muslim Action Hour. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we introduce today's topic, I want to note that for the very first time, we are broadcasting our program on American Muslim 360, in addition to our usual broadcast on Facebook and YouTube. I want to welcome all the viewers and listeners from AM 360 to the program. It's good to be back with you after our long hiatus. We have now essentially merged two programs. Our program on AM 360 was CAIR on Air, the Civil Rights Hour. We've now merged that with the this program, CAIR on Air, the Muslim Action Hour. So we'll be coming to you every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. inshallah Eastern time. So we look forward to you joining us at those times. And of course, as always, if you want us to address particular topics, just email us. The new email will be info@cair.com. And if you're on Facebook, you can also post comments that we can respond to there, inshallah. So thank you so much for joining us. I want to now turn over to my co-host today, Professor Abbas Barzigar, who is the Research and Advocacy Director of the National CAIR Office, a good friend and a great Muslim leader from the state of Georgia. Abbas, please take it away, introduce the program.
Assalamu alaikum, Edward. Thank you for always for your work on this show. It's been nice running this show with you for some time, and it's been a great way to kind of build community during this time where we're separated in so many ways. We're actually able to connect in new ways and build out new networks. And so with that, it's actually quite exciting that through this engagement, through this show, through this sort of series and its former iteration, former incarnation, the Daily Dose, we actually got to meet. We got to meet Salmah Rizvi, who is now with us today in a different capacity, talking about the American Muslim Bar Association, which is a new organization of Muslim legal advocacy, if I can say that correctly, along with Mohammad Ali Naquvi, who is also on one of the sort of founding members of the cohort of this new initiative. And what I think we're here to do today is to talk about your work, but also to talk about the way in which this organization is going to be doing advocacy and mentorship at the same time, and to think about some of the unique issues that it's poised to address, and also think about some of the diversity and kind of issues of inclusion that it seeks to redress in our community as well. So I'm typically bad with introductions and formalities, so if you all wouldn't mind just saying hello to our audience, and maybe each one of you taking a moment to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what's brought you to this place in this organization, and what your goals are with it.
Sure. Why don't you go ahead, Salmah, please?
I was going to say, Bismillah, Muhammad Ali, big brother.
Okay, Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I want to thank CAIR for having us on the show today, and Brother Abbas and Brother Edward, as well as Sister Ayan. So my background real quickly. I am a lawyer in the healthcare space. I don't actually practice law, but I actually work within the managed care field professionally, trying to increase access to medications for patients. So we work with health insurance companies to basically add pharmaceutical products to their formularies. That's what I do professionally. Now, outside of that, I'm a community organizer within the Muslim community, trying to bring diverse Muslim communities together to basically fight the good fight for American Muslims and Muslims abroad as well, together on the path of justice, inshallah, fi sabilillah. So been doing that for about 15, 20 years in the tri-state area mostly, and built some networks locally here, worked on a bunch of projects, one being the lawsuit against the NYPD. I was one of the organizers who organized that lawsuit with Muslim advocates. I also sit on their board, and we successfully, plea bargained a great settlement for the plaintiffs. So,
all right, could you remind the viewers who, in the age of social media and TikTok, might not remember what case that was?
Sure. Yeah, this was the city of New York, NYPD versus Farhad Hassan. It was he was the head plaintiff, who was a Iraq War veteran, a member of the Muslim community here in New Jersey. The NYPD was surveilling mosques, Muslim businesses, Islamic schools in New Jersey without permission from New Jersey heads of the state, New Jersey police, etc., and of course without any buy-in from anyone in the state. So people were very upset. We organized, and I think we had 11 plaintiffs at the end of the day. Very inclusive lawsuit from different communities, from Newark Muslim communities, from immigrant Muslim communities, Sunni communities, Shia communities, and I think it took I think 6 or 7 years to get to the point after the Third Circuit ruled that this sort of surveillance was akin to the Japanese internment and the Red Scare, and that really put the NYPD on their heels and brought them to the table for a great settlement. I think it was over $1 million for plaintiffs and attorneys combined. So we were very gratified after that long process. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Sister Salmah, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what's brought you to this moment?
Sure. I'm a 4th-year associate at a law firm called Ropes & Gray. It's an international law firm. We do amazing pro bono work. My commercial practice centers around anti-corruption and antitrust law. And as the Quran instructs us to fight corruption everywhere, so I'm proud to be an anti-corruption lawyer in DC and to be doing that work. I also have a really strong pro bono practice centered on human rights and civil rights. Right now, I'm preparing for a case that I'll be arguing in the Ninth Circuit next month related to Shia asylum seeker, and I'm hoping to expand the law in that realm. And I have an interest mainly in appellate litigation. And inshallah, this fall, I'll be clerking on the Third Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals for Judge Ted McKee. Okay. And so, alhamdulillah, yeah, I'm really excited, and I'm so happy to be working with Muhammad Ali Naquvi, who's been a longtime mentor of mine through AMBA now. And I'm excited to talk to you more about our mission, inshallah.
Well, I want to make sure Edward gets in here in a second, but I just wanted to just come out with the bat here for AMBA. When we think about Muslim activity, Muslim legal advocacy, we know that there's a number of different organizations out there, CAIR being one of them, that we provide legal services. So what is it what are the services directly that you all see that AMBA will provide that others might not?
So AMBA is made up of 4 committees. And I'll just run through them. The first is our Legal Resources Committee. And so we all, as a community of attorneys, I know Muhammad Ali and I both have often been pinged by spiritual leaders across the country. Hey, can you take this case? Can you help with this case? As I'm sure CAIR is often pinged as well. And we're building a network of legal resources. So we're asking every Muslim American that joins AMBA as an attorney to offer whatever legal resources that they can offer. So I have now this expertise in asylum law and appellate litigation. And so anyone that needs that kind of help, I can try to offer it pro bono. I know, we have certain Muslim lawyers who have worked with survivors of domestic violence, and they can help sisters from our community. And so we're building a network of these legal resources. And so when anyone from the community taps AMBA for help, we can at least direct them in the right direction. And that's this is like the networking legal resources wing of AMBA. The second branch of AMBA is advocacy. And so, we truly feel that as American Muslim lawyers, and as a volunteer organization, a bar organization, that we should be fearless voices and those that mirror the voices of the Ahlul Bayt, the Prophet's family, peace be upon them. And may God bless them for all of the guidance that they have provided us upon Allah. And so we've written a number of statements at this point. Whenever someone in the community pings us, we wrote a statement against injustices facing the Black community. We co-signed a statement on that with Believer Bailout. When the president's directive came out on international students, we wrote a statement about the legal effects of that directive, and we had Muslim student organizations across the country sign on to that, MLSAs, MSAs. We had done a statement on transformative justice, on bail issues, racial justice issues, regarding 2 members of the community who were facing what we believe to be discrimination in a bail hearing. So we're constantly, putting out advocacy pieces that represent our voice as a collective body of Muslim American lawyers, and that are now being signed on to other organizations, alhamdulillah, and that's our advocacy wing. Our next really robust wing is mentorship, and so at AMBA, we truly believe that Muslim Americans have to be everywhere. We need Muslim American attorneys working as judges, partners at law firms, public defenders, prosecutors. We need Muslim American attorneys working on all sides of the aisle and doing all sorts of work in order for us to really be embedded in the legal system. And to that end, we are trying to mentor up and coming Muslim attorneys in order to help them on their career path. Myself, I had very little guidance going to law school, applying to law school. I didn't even know what a clerkship was until after I left law school and I started practicing, and I realized that this is the kind of law I want to be involved with, appellate litigation. And so we are assigning mentors to mentees, and we're building a robust mentorship program where we are really invested in the growth of our young Muslim Americans who want to be attorneys, and those who even just haven't applied to law school yet and need guidance on the outside. Like, we're helping at every level that we can.
I think that's, sorry to cut you off. I just want to say, I think that's extremely important, because a lot of our viewers right now may not even know what a clerkship is. I know that there's a number of people in our offices that are interested in applying to law school, and my own daughter told me she wants to be a lawyer the other day. I'm fighting with her for about a week now. She's only 10 years old, but I'm telling her she's not going to be a lawyer.
Leave her alone, Abbas.
But could you actually tell our audience, what is a clerkship?
Definitely. So, a clerkship is essentially an apprenticeship where you work under a judge. And they're extremely competitive, very hard to acquire. But, I think many people believe that the most powerful, actors in our political legal system today are judges. And so often, if you want to be a judge, you have, most judges have become judges because at one point in their career early on, they've done clerkships. There's also, I'd like to point out, there's an organization called the Appellate Project run by a Muslim woman as well, Javeria Khan, and she is helping to ensure that more people of color are engaged in finding clerkships, are engaged in the appellate process. And we are also having on August 1st, and I'll send you the flyer, Abbas, if you could share with others, and please have your daughter come. It's going to be fantastic. We're having a mentorship panel on Saturday, August 1st, and a current SDNY clerk is going to be speaking on that panel, and she's phenomenal, Muslim woman. And so, we definitely plan to help those who want to apply for clerkships. Noor Hassan has also started this Muslim clerkship network recently, and she's close friends of mine and involved with AMBA, and so I'm hoping that we can get her to speak to people as well on clerkships. And so there's lots of ways now that we can help inform others, and I hope people come to that August 1st event. And the last committee that I'll just touch upon briefly is our education committee. And we hope to offer educational initiatives and classes and courses so Muslims know their rights, of course, and it's similar to a lot of the work that CAIR does, but also so attorneys themselves are able to get their continued learning education credits, their CLE credits. And this kind of education is related to American law. There's another component of education that we hope to bring fresh to the table, which is our self-education. So many members of our community often want to know, how do we write an Islamic will or a marriage contract, and what are rights associated with burial rights, especially in a time of COVID? And people have been coming to us, and we're blessed that on our executive leadership board, we have some, one of our brothers studied in for many years, and he's our education chair now. And so he's gone to he's been to this Center of Islamic Learning and has studied Islamic jurisprudence, and now can bring us these resources at AMBA so we can give our own community that knowledge, because there is really a desire in the Muslim American community for us to be well abreast and aware of Islamic law as it relates to family matters. Alhamdulillah. So these are our 4 committees, and that's essentially, what we do.
That's great. Thank you. Brother Edward.
Yeah, sure. So thank you for that survey. So, I think there were several interesting things you said. And what's unique about your organization is, number one, it's not a traditional bar association so far as so much of what you do is not just mentorship, but advocacy. But you also mentioned a few times, that you are approaching this not from a secular lens, as many Muslim organizations now do, but you are approaching this as faith-based lawyers, and specifically with that perspective as Shia Muslims. Can you talk about, why you thought it was important to found an organization that kind of had that perspective, that Shia perspective, and why it's important that Shia lawyers are able to come together and to make sure that the justice that you envision is being pursued in this country?
I'll tackle that if that's okay, Salmah.
Please.
And then you want to chime in, yeah. So, so we very, very important question. So we specifically have framed our organization to be a value-based organization and not an identity-based organization, right? There are a lot of organizations, and which is great, that are sort of based on Muslim identity, sort of self-identification. But we felt that there is sort of a hole in the American Muslim community, legal community, of advocacy, of doing work for the society that we live in, coming from a very strong value-based paradigm. So just one example, in American culture, for example, we look at the civil rights movement, we talk about, all the struggles that took place. We often, in popular culture, ignore the fact that movement was a very passionate spiritual movement, right? Started in black churches, started in black mosques, or at least finished in the 60s in that paradigm, with 2 very well-known religious leaders at the head, right? Reverend Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, right? So we just want to kind of bring that zeal back, in spiritual zeal, back into the public eye, right? And we felt that the Ahlul Bayt al-Islam are such beautiful role models for that. And it's not just for Shia Muslims, right? I've evolved and grown and learned in my life, and I'll share an experience when I studied under Sherman Jackson in Cairo, Islamic jurisprudence. He lived with us the whole summer. We went to different places on the weekends in Cairo and Egypt. One of the places we visited was the famous El Hussein Mosque, where there are traditions that say, Imam Hussein's head is buried there. And I saw Egyptian Muslims just kind of falling over each other to touch the shrine of Imam Hussein. And in my mind, because the way I was brought up, I was like, wow, these must be Egyptian Shias. And to my surprise, absolutely not. They were almost all Sunnis, from people who I talked to there, who explained it to me. And there is this deep love, definitely, that I've learned from my Sunni brothers and sisters of the Ahlul Bayt, right? And we shouldn't ignore that. And we should bring that out into the public light. So our organization is an inclusive organization for all Muslim lawyers, right? But it's a value-based organization coming from that paradigm.
Thank you for that. It's very, very helpful to know and to get that perspective. Here on the show, we keep it real. Salmah, let me ask you, do you think that, obviously within the Muslim community and within America in general, you have people who are marginalized, do not necessarily have the same platform. Do you think this organization will provide a platform for people to share that perspective that maybe normally don't get a chance to? And what might be unique about it? Because there are like CAIR itself is a faith-based civil rights organization. What unique do you think will be brought to the table in terms of justice advocacy from the perspective of the family of the Prophet, from the Shia theological perspective?
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, thank you so much, Brother Edward, for that question. I really think that, and if anyone out there is able to go to ambalegal.org and just see what we're about, the statement we've put out, the mission, we are already treading new waters, trailblazing in ways that I think Muhammad Ali and I, who have been organizing together for years, have always talked about and wish there was something like this. We want to be a fearless voice as Muslim American lawyers. We don't want to fall into traps of assimilation and hiding our identity and hiding, the important values that Islam brings to the table in America. And just to, this is going to be a place for all different Muslims. And I know there have been many Muslim Americans who have gone to their local bar associations, and they have wanted to be able to write or to be able to rally as a group of Muslim American lawyers around topics that they just can't for some reason. So Palestinian human rights, for example, is one of those. And so inshallah, we'll be coming out with a statement soon on the annexation. And these are things that I think we have a little bit more freedom to do because we are all dedicated, as of right now, volunteers. And we are not necessarily, and we're fresh and we're new, and so we're not kind of beholden to a past that might be muddied, nor are we beholden to certain donors that may or may not have criticisms of the kind of fearless voice that we hope to inculcate here. And just to let you know, like the Ahlul Bayt, when I imagine them, subhanAllah, and try to ask them for guidance and strength and make pilgrimage, I think about just different sayings. So Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, what is the best jihad, the best struggle in this world? A word of truth in front of a tyrannical ruler. We as attorneys need to be speaking those words of truth. The same Ali ibn Abi Talib said, adhere to the cause of truth and justice wherever you find it. Imam Hussein said, those who are silent when others are oppressed are guilty of oppression themselves. We hope to not be silent as Muslim lawyers. We aren't scared to finally, speak our voice when something in the community goes wrong, in the American community, and we want to stand up and we want to be in solidarity with the oppressed at all times. And Imam Jafar as-Sadiq, he said, verily knowledge is a lock and the key is the question. He engaged in rigorous legal debate, and he was the teacher of Sunni fiqh leaders, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik. Imam Malik had gone to prison for what he believed in. And so these are leaders that we have in the Ahlul Bayt that show us that we need to really truly believe that standing up for truth, especially as attorneys, even if it may cause harm to our careers or harm to our reputations, because we're standing for this truth, that we keep standing for a certain type of truth and we keep standing on the side of the oppressed. And this is not just Daisy, Middle Eastern centric Ahlul Bayt. We also want to bring in, Ahlul Bayt scholars from around the world, from Indonesia, the Habayib, to Hadramaut, to Ahmed Dubamba in West Africa has been a huge teacher to many, up and coming attorneys, and especially to myself. He said that the only weapon I will use to fight my enemies is the qalam, the pen. And the ink that I use to write the words will be glorified in the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam. And so, when we look at these beautiful West African teachers and scholars as well, who are part of the Ahlul Bayt, we want to bring in what they've taught. And Ahmed Dubamba was anti-colonial, anti-slavery in Cuba, Senegal, mashallah, during a time where it was hard to beat. And so,
mashallah. I'm sorry, Salmah. I want to jump in real quick and echo Brother Edward when he says, we do want to have, serious conversations, keep it real on this show.
Yeah.
And there's a question that I'm going to ask. It's a friendly question, but many people will ask it. at a time when our communities are marginalized, our communities are under tons of pressure, and we should be strengthening our organizations, doesn't the creation of another legal organization threaten to divide us further, to threaten to sort of, thin out our resources? What would you do with that kind of criticism, that maybe at this time we should be unifying and not separating? And like you said, Sunnis all believe in the Ahlul Bayt already. So why a new organization?
Yeah.
What need existed in order for this to, in order for you to kind of pull this together?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I'll add on to that to give a little push. Also, the name American Muslim Bar Association. You all gave me an interesting answer last time we discussed. That's a very all-encompassing name. Why did you think that was a good name for the organization as well?
Sure. I'll leave that question to Salmah if you want to take that one. But Brother Abbas's question, so really, really important. So I think AMBA didn't just kind of arise out of nowhere, right? There has been, over the last few decades, a certain culture that has been built in the American Muslim community. And unfortunately, it hasn't been so inclusive, right? I mean, I kind of look at organizations broadly in three sort of buckets. There's Muslim organizations, there's Sunni organizations, and there's Shia organizations, right? And I think if an organization isn't actively trying to engage different Muslim communities, then it isn't really a Muslim organization, right, in the true sense of the word. And that's okay. We need Sunni organizations. We need Shia organizations, right? Our communities at times are separate. We practice separately in different centers, and different masajid and imam baras. But there are times that we can come together, and we don't do that enough. We don't take advantage of those opportunities. I think I can count on my hand the number of organizations that I really think are inclusive, and I'm happy to work with a lot of them. One of those is Islamic Center of NYU, where there's in an academic context, a Sunni chaplain and a Shia chaplain, and they're working together to bring communities together. There's another one at Princeton University with Imam Sohaib Sultan, who very actively brings in the Shia community surrounding the university, along with the Sunni community. There's a Majlis of Imam Hussein done every year where it's a very diverse crowd, so people learn from each other different historical narratives, right? So I think a lot of larger Muslim organizations haven't done this outreach, right? And I'm going to push back on you guys. Honestly, I've been very critical of CAIR on this, for years, publicly.
We've noticed.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised I'm on this show, but alhamdulillah, I've had a lot of, discussions with a lot of executive directors, and I'm supportive of those chapters that are inclusive and they do reach out. I try to build bridges with my local chapter, and we've done so successfully, trying to get people together in different communities. But so it doesn't just come out of nowhere, right? And about college campuses, it's such a sad thing for me that MSAs, Muslim student associations, have broken apart, and there's these student associations, right? There's these Shia student organizations. I wish at the crux of their lives where they're learning, there would be more engagement. Because, when we get older, we start families. It's normal to concentrate most of your time in your specific faith community at your masjid. But at least in college, make sure you're engaging with different types of Muslims. So AMBA has naturally emerged, unfortunately, from that culture. And what we're trying to do is make sure that we become one of those few inclusive Muslim organizations, but on values that are based in ideals and principles that all Muslims really believe. And we feel that the Ahlul Bayt really fits that very well, alhamdulillah. So.
No, alhamdulillah. And I want to thank you for, coming on the show. And if it's a testament to the moment that we're in and to the spirit that we're in, that, we can have these conversations. If America is being forced to have these conversations, our communities need to have these conversations. Mm-hmm. And we need to be able to exemplify and model to our communities what conversations look like, what difficult subjects look like, what addressing our past looks like. And so I'm really honored that you guys would come on the show, and that we're happy to have you here. So
thank you.
Same here. It's 3:34. I think we've got to wrap up, Abbas.
Okay.
So we'll thank you both, and hopefully we can continue the conversation, inshallah.
And answer your question, Brother Edward.
Oh yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, of course, I'd be happy to. This is the first. I know there's NAML, and I love the work that NAML does as a network of Muslims.
And that's the National Association of Muslim Lawyers, by the way. Exactly. I won't plug us since I'm the secretary. I don't want to.
Of course, no problem.
I'll leave you to do that.
But we are incorporating ourselves as the first national bar association for Muslim America, an actual bar association. So, and all of this that we do fits within our letters of incorporation and fits within, you know, the strategy, and it doesn't go beyond anything that a bar association has done. We have great attorneys who have advised us on this. And so I really hope that everyone will join AMBA. And the reason we chose, even though many of us, there are Sunnis and Shias who have rallied to start this organization, although many of us, the majority of us, are Shias who have created this. We decided to name it the American Bar Association so we could be inclusive, so we know as Shia Muslim Americans what it feels like to be on the sidelines. And we want this to be a space for the Ahmadis and the Ismailis and the other minorities that are attorneys, and we know what it feels like, so we know exactly how to ensure that we are inclusive and we are welcoming everybody, because we've, for so often in Muslim America, been on the other side of that table. And so you know, we made a conscious decision that we were not going to be exclusive. We're not just going to be a Shia Bar Association. So if everybody could please, you know, don't call it the Shia Bar Association AMBA. We are the nation's first Muslim American bar association for everyone. And we want to be, and we are feminists as well. I notice I'm the only woman on this. I'd like to mention that half of our board is female. And we want to keep pushing, you know, these agendas for inclusivity and racial justice and sectarian justice, you know, by embodying the inshallah, the prophetic lessons and the lessons from the Ahlul Bayt. So I hope everybody, if you're an attorney or if you're an aspiring lawyer, please consider joining us, www.ambalegal.org. And thank you guys.
No, thank you.
Thank you both so much for joining us, and thank you for sharing this information, answering these frank questions, and having this frank discussion. We appreciate it. May Allah grant you all success in the endeavor. May Allah, who has power of all things, the only one who can answer prayers and grants guidance, may Allah grant you all success with the organization and guide us as Muslim lawyers to be of service to our neighbors and the community in whatever way we can, inshallah. With that, and to everyone listening on AM 360, thank you all for joining us as well for this first program. Again, in the future, if you're listening online or listening on the phone, best thing to do if you can is to go online to our Facebook. You can put a question in the comments. We can address it there. I didn't see any comments or questions during today's program, but inshallah, hopefully in the future. Abbas, thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mohammad.
We'll be in touch.
Thank you, brothers. Edward, you got to join AMBA, bro.
Yeah.
Inshallah. You got to join NAML.
Okay, inshallah.
I'm already on NAML.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Assalamu alaikum.